The new football season is just hours away, and here at WeLoveBetting we're getting very excited about it. So right now, this Wednesday afternoon, myself and Nick Watts are going to talk about the Premier League. How are you doing, Nick?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to a new Premier League season. Arsenal, my team, had a decent summer. It could be about to get a lot worse, but for now I'm positive. So
yeah, by the time this hits YouTube, Van Persie might be gone. Who knows? But anyway, we're looking at in betting order. The Manchester clubs dominating the betting. Nick, 13 to 10 best price at Man City. Man United almost 3-1 at 13 to 5. Which of those two do you reckon are more likely to win the title?
I think the general consensus, and probably rightly so, is that Man City are the best placed team. Generally everyone says they've got the best squad, and actually I think all of the top four have now got 2 11s really. They seem to have expanded their depth there and can compete with City. And City will be tested in terms of depth this year. Yaya Toure has a playoff game yet, but could well be going to the African nations, of course, with it being in successive years, and we saw the impact that had on them last season. You know, they were the best team last year. Of course they were. They scored the most goals, conceded the least, beat Manchester United twice. You know, those are the stats that have been dragged out again and again, and they're accurate. You know, they had that phenomenal home record, and I think they'll be banking on that again. But United obviously got Vidic coming back. I think Kagawa was a great signing for them. Possible Van Persie. You know, you'll have your own opinions, I'm sure. I think it's actually a lot of money to pay for a player who's got the injury record that he's got and is at the age and stage of his career. But if he wins them the title next year, then absolutely you've got to say they've got value for money in that sense if they pay around the sort of 20 million mark, which is what's being touted at the moment. Definitely Manchester United a better value at 13 to 5. You know, the Racing Post really picked up on the fact that these two teams were level on points last year, and divided only by a goal difference. Not only that, they handed Manchester City the title, didn't they? They lost to Wigan, they drew with Everton in that dramatic fashion. Either of those doesn't happen, and they take the title. And at 13 to 5, they're definitely going to be shorter than that at some point during the season. And what I like to do is to look at these markets in terms of blocks of fixtures and just trying to predict when Manchester United are going to be shorter, when Man City are going to be bigger. And I think that City will be bigger than 13 to 10 at some point, and United will be shorter than 13 to 5. So get involved with United at this stage, I'd say.
Absolutely, 13 to 5. It's bigger prices I can ever recall in Manchester United. Man City, the shortest price favourites going into the season since Chelsea 6 years ago, and Chelsea at 4-9 that year in 2006-07, and they lost to Manchester United that year, so no guarantee for City there. We'll look at the two London clubs. London, of course, in vogue at the moment after the wonderful fortnight at the Olympics, and Chelsea 11 to 2 best price. Arsenal more than double that at 12 to 1. A lot of new signings for Chelsea, but the price hasn't really got any shorter. In fact, it's got bigger in the last 7 days since the Community Shield, out to 11 to 2. Arsenal, ironically, despite all the RVP talk, they're looking better Nick this particular day, because they're bringing Cazorla in and Podolski, Giroud. Your thoughts on the London clubs, Nick?
Well, I mean, let's start with Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal fan. We should start with Arsenal, shouldn't we? Basically, they are stronger. This is the summer that I expected them to have last year. Losing 2 key players, and that Alex Song might still go to Barcelona, of course, as well. But ultimately going out there and buying the players that they need to replace them. It shouldn't be a big ask, but obviously the right deals have come along this year. Arsene Wenger has been very decisive, and certainly he's going to have money to spend. If those 2 players leave, Arsenal won't have actually spent any money this summer, and if he wants to go and get another player before the end of August, then he can. And I think there's a couple of opportunities out there, particularly with Malaga still struggling, the likes of Nuri Sahin also kind of available, they're battling with Liverpool for his signature, it seems. So we could still see that Arsenal team strengthened, and I think they'll surprise a few people this year. I don't think they'll win the title, but I do think 12 to 1's an awfully big price, considering that Cazorla is the player that Arsene Wenger wanted to replace Fabregas. And 2 years ago, up until that Carling Cup disaster, Arsenal were in the title race. The big challenge is, of course, that they need all these players to settle in and do well right from the off. And much as I like to think that all of them will do that, I would suspect there'll be a betting in period. From Chelsea's point of view, again, they've got a similar problem, but they've also bought high quality players for a lot more money than Arsenal, obviously, and maybe that puts a bit more pressure on them. But of course the biggest pressure is on Fernando Torres, and if he can't score in this team now, with the likes of Hazard, Mata, Oscar, possibly the likes of Hulk still to come. If he can't score with those players around him, there's just no hope for him whatsoever. So I expect him to score goals this year. The only fear would be if he gets injured. I guess they've only got Danny Sturridge in reserve there. Di Matteo, the biggest doubt for me when it comes to Chelsea. You couldn't not offer him the job after what he did last year, but is he an elite manager? Is he going to be able to deal with the mind games of Sir Alex Ferguson and, to a lesser extent, Mancini this year? Big question mark there for me on that basis.
Absolutely, and he's 6-4 and not to be in charge come the last day of the season, which I thought was a fair bet. And we'll look at the other two clubs in the supposed Big Six. With apologies to Newcastle, who finished within that top six last season. Liverpool and Tottenham both best price 33-1, which is mighty short for me, to be honest. Liverpool, of course, brought in Brendan Rodgers, but still, after that dismal finished 8th last season, a lot of question marks going into the season. And Tottenham brought in AVB, and you speak to Tottenham fans and just people who want to comment on Tottenham, and they generally have no idea how they'll go on this season. Very hard team to predict this season. What are your thoughts on Liverpool and Spurs? Well,
I know a Spurs fan who's actually backed them to go down, so that sums up the negativity of Spurs fans, really. I'm sure there's some positive ones out there, but this one in particular couldn't resist 250-1 for them for the drop, which I did find quite amusing, because they certainly won't be in danger of that. They're a little bit in what Arsenal were last season. They've got this Luka Modric situation, read Cesc Fabregas for that, and they can't really go out and spend until they've got the money for that, but they're holding out for the best price. Real Madrid really want to get a good price that's a lot lower than what Spurs are prepared to take, and they're going to have to either make a deal or hold him for another year, and you just get the feeling this year he's going to cause that bit more trouble. On top of that, they've got Adebayor, who I said this to Spurs fans last year. I'm obviously biased against him as an Arsenal fan, but he's the sort of guy that in the first season plays his heart out, does a really good job. He's a very talented striker, but at the end of it, he will cause trouble eventually, and they're really fortunate in a way that he's doing it when he's not actually on their books. The trouble is they need him on their books because they've only got one striker at the moment. For me, there are other challenges for them in the likes of Sigurdsson. Great signing, I think, but at the same time, can he play with Van der Vaart? Where does he fit into that team? It's a bit of a conundrum for AVB to solve. Liverpool-wise, every single year we go through this of just enormous faith in Liverpool and how this is going to be the season. This is, there was a great patch of form here, so this means that this year is going to be their best year. And I do think they will improve under Brendan Rodgers, but it's a long-term strategy. It's not this season that they're going to break into the top 4. If he can do well there, which is not 100% guaranteed, but I think a lot of people have got faith in him. If they give him the time, I think Liverpool can become a force again, but I just don't expect it to come this season. Too early.
Completely agree. This could be a long-term project. I think it could be as pivotal as when Manchester United had Sir Alex Ferguson back in 1986. It just needs 2 or 3 seasons to bed in Brendan Rodgers. To sum up, Nick, then your best bet in the Premier League outrights.
Well, I think we can be sure that it's going to come from one of the Manchester clubs. I would be getting on Manchester United now with the idea of them getting through, which is a relatively easy start. Seeing that price shrink, Manchester City coming out a bit, and then being able to get on Man City further down the line and pretty much sew up profit one way or another within the first few months of the season.